Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today taking a look at Supreme Straits. You all know I love this map. This has become my de facto 8 versus 8 standard map, right? It just has everything we want. We can take a look at Navy. We can usually take a look at a aerial player in the back line. Usually there's a air player for both teams here. And of course there's this beautiful front line. Just love this map all around. I think it has some excellent lineups here. Lineups to speak about here. Trying to find a segue. Didn't quite come out as smoothly as I'd like for the red team. In the southwest corner, we have Prime R, or maybe it's Primer. Either way, Primar, kind of the capitalization throwing off there. Our red player here for the red team, spawning in a frontline position. We love to see it. Love it when these high true skill guys say, you know what, it's time to let one of the lackeys, one of the young chaps get a turn in the back line. Let them learn how to eco up a little bit. Let them take the heat for not winning the game. Take all that pressure, and I'm just gonna play the front line. Absolutely love to see it. Very well done, Primar. I guess we'll see exactly how you do as this game starts up here in just a little bit. But for our blue team, spawning in the northeastern corner, we have Daros 0 to be specific here, our blue player for the blue team today, taking the northern sea position here for this team, the beach position. I usually call this the sea lane, and then this is the beach position. Taking up the beach position, of course, in the very standard spot. We have the 3 mexes here, another one on the beach up in this way, and then we have these 4 metal extractors out in the water. So some more over here that can sometimes swing into this player's control. They are just as likely to be controlled by the player in the shore lane position over here. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Lining up today for our shore lane player for the red team, Mr. Patrick. Very, very gentlemanly name, very dapper. Going for the hovercraft start. You know I'm a really big fan of this build. You go for the hovercraft first, and then you pump out a couple of those seekers, and you get them across the map as quickly as you can to harass down the land-based economy of your lane counter here. And then you use the hovercraft builder in order to claim this island, while your commander pushes forward to capture the to build a sea lab here. Definitely one of my favorite builds. It also allows you to transition really nicely because this lab takes quite a bit of metal. It's 900 metal, so once you eat that up, you can actually, you have a big bank of metal that you can suck up and use to transition into T2, which is quite nice. Now for the sea lane position here for the blue team, we have Solus Bar. Cool name, very meta name. Knew the name of the game before making their own name. Very, very cool. Solus Bar going for a bot lab here first. Not really. I mean, that's not bad either. It's a lot cheaper, so certainly you're going to have it up a little bit quicker. You're going to have those bots out a little bit quicker. And yeah, you're going to be able to expand a little bit quicker all around. But it does mean that you're not going to be able to step out into the water until you get your commander and some sort of navy positioning done. And that's kind of difficult because in the shore lane position, you're going to hit the water a lot slower than your opponent over here. So your opponent over here is at a metal disadvantage, but they're at I guess a speed advantage here because they get to the water a whole lot quicker. You can see the naval labs are already up and running for the both players on the shoreline position here. So that's one of the reasons to make sure that you're quick to claim as much as you can when you're playing the lane position. We have ticks out now. Not sure if those were the first units on the field, but they're the first units I see being actually useful. So I think I'm going to award our first unit on the field award to Rutger. Rutger doing an excellent job getting those units out nice and early, setting up an anti-air turret. That's very nice. It's a little bit further back. It's not going to stop these frontline players from getting harassed down, but it might deter any scouting craft that are trying to take a look into the back line here. You can see these actually cover a pretty wide radius. It wouldn't take too many of them to block off this area. In fact, there's another one up here I hadn't even seen. So yeah, with those radius combined, we have a nice little air screen in place. Very nicely done. Glad to see that the team is working together here. Doris asking not to eat up all of the materials on his beachhead. I guess that's fair. Starting up some tidal generators. These are always very nice. Tidal power is 21 on this map, which is quite high. Definitely anywhere near 20 is going to be very, very efficient for these. The tidal generators, if we zoom in here and we take a look, you can see that they cost 90 metal and 250 energy, which opposed to, say, the 150 metal for a solar panel that gets you 21, yeah, I think I like tidal generators quite a lot more. Building these metal extractors out in the water also absolutely critical to getting your economy up to scale with this players here. We do have a hover tank out on the field here. Do we have a constructor? Looks like we didn't manage to get a constructor over to this island, which is probably going to hurt in the long run. How's this player doing? Looks like Wessel. Oh, is it Wessel Pretzel? Anyway, Wes's PL. Yeah, they'll have to leave a comment down below and let me know how I'm supposed to pronounce this name, but we'll call you Wes. Wes here, the hot pink player, building out the economy as well. A little bit slower than Daros 0, but I guess we can attribute that to the 7 true skill difference between those two players. Still, though, miles ahead of the competitor over here, Solus Bar, who's still pushing up to the naval arena. Making sure to get light laser turrets up, but there's actually no hovercraft that are going to be coming ashore, at least not yet. Frontline hold here. That is really nice. Slate, okay? The orange player. The orange player here, looking to create a very, very dominating lead here. We are starting up anti-radar, the jammer tower. Very nicely done. Definitely an excellent option here. The tanks do see it, so we're aware of where the position for that is going to be, but of course it will be turning invisible shortly. Purple saying we lost mid-lull. Yeah, I think that's true. We are putting a whole lot of metal into these solar panels without a whole lot of expansion on the back of it. We are really relying on these metal spots being taken here to get the balance up. At the moment, the red team definitely has the controlling lead here over the metal extractors, and I think this is going to swiftly turn this battle in their favor. Daros has done an excellent job of quarantining this player on this side of the map. We do have hover tanks out now. Decent against the T1 Navy. You have to outmatch them by quite a lot, as far as numbers go anyway. But you fall off very quickly once you get into that T2 Navy. These are, of course, T1 level units, so once you step into that T2 Navy, you're definitely going to be falling off pretty quickly here. That being said, these can, of course, go around on land or, in any of these kind of tricky positions here and sneak around, maybe cause a little damage with a little bit of harassment. I would love to see that. Maybe some Seekers snuck out and blasted around to the other side of the enemy. It's really, really important to harass in this matchup. Very important. I do see a submarine patrolling back and forth over here, making sure that the seaways are clear. Little does it know, there's a hovercraft lab starting up right now. Solus Bar making sure to get some bots out and send them to the front line. That's actually quite nice. Since he's a little bit stuck, not really in a position to do anything at the immediate moment, I do quite like that we are trying to help on the front line. It all comes down to how these pawns are controlled, right? How much they can actually effectively get done. But certainly if they manage to make some good decisions, they could get a lot of work done here. The Seekers probably looking to harass something. But they managed to actually scuff up this battleship, or destroyer rather, sorry. Scuff up the destroyer pretty nicely, which is quite good. They're headed right for another one though, so they're going to have to adjust course. Wouldn't mind seeing them turn left and make land. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we're going to do. Taking a lot of hits from these destroyers though, so we are definitely going to need to see some splitties. No splitties today. They do make shore though, and they hit land. They hit land hard. They take out a metal extractor already. They're going to sweep through and take out a few more, I think. Grabbing a second one for their trouble. Remember, these metal extractors are worth extra. These ones in the middle. So taking these out is a much bigger hit than if you were taking out some of the backline ones. So it is quite nice that this is actually breaking through and getting quite a bit of damage done. Ooh, Aggravator gets a nice hit right there. Still trying to push through and get damage. I do love to see this. This is some really good aggression here. Is it costing all of the micro though? Ah, no, we're teching up. So this is a great time to really, really heavily micro a couple of units. You're teching up. You don't really need to focus on anything. So just make sure that you can micro as hard as you possibly can. At this point, Mr. Patrick in a little bit of trouble. The Navy has just continued to grow here for the blue player. And so it's going to be continually difficult to break out of this position. maybe coastal torpedo launchers, but these destroyers can outrange those, so really you're just in a really tough spot here now that there's a destroyer to harass your front line, so to speak. Yeah, we're getting defenses up here. Daro's doing a really good job of just capping off this player. Ooh, and we're already going into a seaplane platform. Very nice. We've already got the tech transition in mind. Would love to see this lab get eaten up. I'm sure we'll see that shortly here. We're thinking about it. Not quite yet. Commander is also walking over here very slowly to hopefully put down some metal extractors and some air defenses and get this island nice and under control. Very nice to see. Now, middle is losing quickly. A lot of these artillery supported by the T1 medium tanks. It's exactly what we're looking to see. Yeah, those artillery shells, they hurt. They definitely do a lot more damage than those direct fire cannon shells from the tanks. But for good reason. It's much more difficult to land those, but when you do, they hurt a whole lot more. A lot of these medium tanks go down. That is basically the entire army of this green player here going down for very, very little cost to the red player. A couple of these light tanks, medium tanks rather, do end up going down, but there's already reclaim bots here to eat up all of the wreckage. So we are looking quite nice. Not a good position at all for the lime green player. We're going to definitely need to see some support from the allies here. We do have a T2 lab up. I'd love to see maybe a fat boy or some snipers or maybe a spy bot would work pretty good too. If you paralyze this whole army, that might give the opportunity to jump on top of it. Move these bots into position and jump on top of it if you stun the whole thing. Take a little bit of coordination though. I'm not exactly sure how familiar Xcode is with microing those EMP bots, those spy bots, but that could be an option. But for now, these medium tanks are just marching forward, and they are happy to destroy this production facility here. The darker green player now has to sort of cover the darkest green player. We have we have darkest green, medium green, and light green here. Really, really unfortunate for the colorblind audience. I do apologize. That probably makes no sense. Blitzer, our dark green player here, keeping the units on standby, but also getting them harassed down by artillery. Ooh, and you can just see they're just standing still and taking the full brunt of this artillery. That really hurts. No patrol point, no repeat move command. Yeah, we're just gonna take these shells. It's good for the units. It hardens them up. It's war hardening. Yeah, you cannot walk into that range right there. Oh, yep. That hurts pretty bad. The units start to march forward, but of course, right as the red army retreats. Very nicely done here by Primar, making sure that this front line falls very, very nicely, very effectively. More units have been set on patrol over here, and it looks like we do have some destroyers moving in for the kill. This lab is just about to finish up. This was started ages ago, and it was just being built by a single lone construction bot, all alone, trying to build up this economy. Looks like we stepped up to a T2 economy, but we are practically abandoning the naval aspect of this game. Maybe assuming that we've already won sea, so there's not really a reason to win another. We have switched out of the sea lab, or the seaplane lab, I should say. Not sure exactly why. Maybe we just abandoned that tech path and decided to go into a T2 lab instead. Don't hate that at all. We still have the T1 lab, which is quite interesting. Maybe we're planning to build some resurrection submarines. It's really the only thing of value after you've gotten the T2, the T2 units up and running here. Getting the T2 metal extractors, it's quite nice. We'd love to see some of that T2 economy start up, and after a little bit of building economy, you can transition into building those amphibious units and storming the beaches. Now, I will say, it's an incongruity that I hadn't noticed before, but it is interesting that if the sea lane player wins the Navy, they have a much better path, they have a much wider array of assault paths for harassing the beachheads, whereas if the beach player wins the Navy, then they have a much shorter path, a much narrower path here to assault the beaches. Now, of course, they can always come in from the side here, which I think is also an excellent option, but that is interesting. I hadn't noticed that before. So I think even though this beachhead player had won the Navy, it is a little bit less effective than if the sea lane player had won the Navy. Now it is mirrored right here. We can see the beachhead player has won the Navy for both teams here. So I guess we can call that an even balance. Hounds are out now, and it looks like those have driven back a whole lot of this force. Artillery is still being threatening, but definitely they will melt under the force of those hounds if given the opportunity. Some battleships actually shelling away at the hounds. That's quite interesting. It's a engagement that we don't normally see. Resbots here to patch all these things back up to full health. That's quite nice. Always be conscientious about that. We're going for a tech up here for the lime green player. Red Nass. Red Nass is looking very shy on economy at the moment. 7 metal per second. Tons of energy. These T1 solar collectors, though, we could basically fund this. We could basically fund this T2 lab with a single, or with a bunch of reclaim off of these solar panels here. So that is quite interesting. Yeah, very nicely done. We see a gauntlet here, built to ward off some of those long-range ships, I suppose. Very nice to see. We also see T2 vehicles out eventually. We have Starlights out on the field. We'll probably be seeing Bulls. We'll probably be seeing lightning tanks. We have radar and radar jammer vehicles coming out as well. Consoles, yeah, the whole lot. All of it being built up by Primar here. Very nicely done. Haven't seen hardly any action from the backline players here, which is a bit odd. Yeah, it looks like Corvin is just scaling the economy. Looks like Alandalu is doing much the same. Trying to get up an economy of sorts here. We do reclaim the T2 bot lab in order to make some more build power. I think that's a pretty good move here, considering we are on 1 construction turret. Definitely a little bit low for what we're expecting at this point in the game. How's the blue players' technology centers going? We are building a nuke while simultaneously building a fusion reactor. If you want my opinion on this, and you clicked on the video, so I'm assuming you do. I don't know if that's a fair assumption or not, but I'll give it to you anyway. We should probably get the economy up and running before we get the nuclear launcher up and running, because this is going to drain a whole lot more power. And so we want to produce a ton of metal while we can, and then once we're ready to commit to launching a nuke, we should build the nuclear launcher. As it stands right now, this is not really the economy to build a nuke on, at least not without sacrificing basically everything here. Tear down the T2 lab, tear down these energy storages, the metal storages, tear down basically anything that isn't absolutely critical to functioning this nuclear launcher if it's a rush that we're going for. And based on the fact that there's no units out, I have to assume that that's what we're going for here. Now this, oh. Yep, okay. Focus on the fusion reactor. You got to get that thing up and running. But you also need some of these energy converters. It's kind of useless without the energy converters. How's our purple player doing back here? Purple player has also gone for a nuclear launcher. That is interesting. Getting some Fiends out on the field to help the front lines. I think that's great. Fiends definitely an excellent option for just always making sure that there's enough firepower on the front line. No pun intended. We are going for an air lab too, though, so that's quite nice. Make sure that there is no threat of aerial bombardment back here. We are running this base on a whole lot of windmills. We do have a fusion reactor up, though, and a second one on the way, so eventually this base will be a little bit less prone to bombardment, but still quite dangerous. We have T2 Air Lab out here for kind of an odd position for it, actually. It's one of the frontline support players here. It's usually what I think of this role anyway. But teching up quite nicely. We've kind of stalled on the front lines. The front line doesn't really want to push in without a huge mass of T2 units. Oh, interesting. We do have some spy bots out now. Yeah, we're maneuvering the hounds in for the kill here. These units stunned for, like, I think it's 20 seconds for every one of these. Yeah, the hounds are going to do nice work here. Starlight goes up. Those are explosives, so every time one of those dies, everything around it goes boom as well. Very nicely done. Yeah, we actually managed to chip away at this army nicely. Does sort of force Red into a position where they either have to attack or they have to retreat. And I don't think attacking is the right move here. I think they're going to have to pull their forces back. Sheldons are out now as well, and that's sort of the bot counterpart to the Hound here for the Cortex player. There's actually a tremendous army here. Wow, that's a lot of sprinters. We could absolutely jump on top of this army here with those sprinters. We have to avoid these Janices. Those are definitely one counter to those sprinters. Not a perfect counter because they are T2 and they're very strong. But definitely one counter. Yeah, we EMP a whole bunch of these Hounds. Very nicely done. Excellently done here. The Hounds move forward. They don't have vision anymore, so I'd love to see a radar bot incorporated into this composition. But aside from that one complaint, I think this is an excellent operation here. Yeah, we're taking down a whole lot of these Hounds. We get 3, 4 of them for free, and it forces this army to jump on top of this. Another EMP bot there to slow down this push of tanks, captures 4 of them. Blitz is pushing forward now, trying to be devastating, but these Hounds are really powerful. They melt down these tanks. Really nicely done. The sprinters take this as their cue to move forward. Very nice. They jump on top of these tanks, getting the full surround, doing that maximum damage, as you can see by the little indicator there on their waists. The destroyers have now pushed forward, and they're trying to be dangerous as well, but they are actually taking more damage than they're dealing, I would have to say. The hounds can be quite threatening. Those also shoot out at a very high range here. Let's actually see. Let's compare the range of a hound to the range of a destroyer here. Range of 650 versus a range of 700. So the destroyers do outrange the hound by a little bit, but definitely the vision ranges make up for that difference here. Now we see a destroyer, or a battleship brought in. Whoa! Nuclear bomber brought in from left field, or not a nuclear bomber, a nuclear bomb sent in from left field here. It looks like the nuke launcher for our Darrow Ace player, the purple player. Landed right in the middle of the map, left a nice waterway to get those ships across. A couple more of those nukes and we can sail through the sea. That would be interesting. That'd be an interesting strategy to try and win the northern sea, and then northern and southern sea, and then connect the two seas with nukes across the middle of the map here. That would be pretty funny. With all that static defense gone, though, the orange and red player are actually left almost completely defenseless here. Orange player decides to reveal himself, and so the grunts jump on top of that opportunity to attack the commander. Commander goes up and does manage to blow away a substantial amount of those fiends. It's actually quite nice. There was definitely a much more threatening number of those earlier here, just before that commander went up in smoke. But there's still a few of them left, and they are going to tear apart this base really quickly. See, the total damage that they can put out is just tremendous. They fire that spurt of flame that is just, it just wrecks everything in its path. A counter nuke comes out here and blows away most of the green force, though. Nukes to counter nukes. Anti-nukes are for chumps. We're only interested in shooting down nukes with nukes. Wonder if that's possible. Get two nuclear launchers and put them in just the right position. I wonder if you can get the nukes to collide with each other. Someone should definitely test that. It's gotta be doable. Absolutely. My chair is creaking a lot. I think I need to go get some WD-40 and spray it all over this thing. Really lube it up here. A lot of seaplane gunships brought out now, and these are going to start wrecking the base over here. These gunships are pretty durable. T1 fighters are not going to cut it against these. These are, like I've said in my my Tech Paths video, I know that one was a little unpopular. I think I might revisit that one to revise it a little bit, because it's an important topic. But that video was not my best work. Anyway, as I said in that video, these seaplanes are sort of like T1.5. They're not quite T2, but they're definitely better than T1. As you can see by these T2 defenses that absolutely ravage them. But the T1 fighters take quite a long time in order to actually shoot those down. Anyways, looking over here at the blue player for the northern team, we've gone for a amphibious hovercraft plant, a naval hovercraft plant rather. Interesting decision. Really think the amphibious plant is just better bang for your buck. You don't have to pay the price of hovercraft, and you basically get the same type of units. Either way, though, these crocodiles are going to storm the beaches, fighting against their brothers. You do find a energy extractor cluster, as well as the commander here. Yeah, these don't get as much done as I ultimately think I would have liked to see. Looks like a nuke was shot down there. Was it this anti-nuke system here? It was indeed. This citadel here to defend from any nuclear attack. Very nicely done. The hot pink player here, Wes, has committed to building these seaplane gunships, and while they are extremely powerful, that first wave has already triggered a massive air screen here for the blue team, so I'm not sure how much more value you're going to be able to get out of those, at least without building a tremendous amount of fighters yourself. Maybe you could petition your teammate to send in some fighters. That's also another option here. Good amount of bulls are finally out on the field, which does mean that a lot of these units are going to be shut down. We also have these, what are they called? Wasps. I was going to call them hornets, but pretty close. The wasps out here to deal with some of these fiends, and these are actually a really great option. That missile that they launch has a slight AoE to it, which is really nice because, of course, those fiends tend to clump up because of how fast they are. So I think they're actually a pretty decent counter to those early fiend assaults. They don't deal with the big monsters, the big T3 units, quite as well as, say, the Armada equivalent. I forget what it's called, but it's the one that fires the two little missiles. Do we have an Armada air player? I can show you the one that I'm talking about. We do indeed. The Hornet. Ah, that one's called the Hornet. That makes sense. Yeah, it's the counterpart. I should have known. The Armada Hornet is definitely a very good option for taking down bigger, tankier objects. But it's a bit overkill on things like a Fiend, and it also doesn't have that AoE effect to it. Bit of a trade-off. There's something to be said about active counters. Wow. I think a nuke was aiming for Mr. Patrick, but luckily, the mountain range ate it up. Only had to sacrifice a geothermal plant, but I think it's a small price to pay in order to keep your entire base from exploding into a mess of nuclear radiation. Ah, interesting. We're going to be nuking this forward outpost here. Wipe it off the face of the map. That's quite nice. Yeah, very well done. A couple of hovercraft moving forward here. The last remnants of what once was a mighty naval projection of force. We do have some amphibious units moving forward, a couple of them caught by some submarines here, and I think that is going to trigger a defensive reflexive reaction from Doros 0. T2 ships are up and running, and we're also getting that T2 economy up and running. These amphibious tanks are scouting mostly. Oh, we're trying to attack with them. Yeah, it looks like Slack, or Slat 80K, and the orange player has just realized just now that, unfortunately, amphibious tank does not mean that it can attack underwater. It just means it can traverse underwater. It'd be epic if those could attack underwater. I think the duck is probably a better option for you, though. You are an Armada player. Glory to you. But you do not have a great option for attacking underwater, short of complete submarine warfare. Spybots moving forward here to push the assault of a couple of snipers. Very nicely done. Yeah. Very, very good reaction here. Snipers are going to be great against these bulls. They find one of the spy bots, reducing the vision. But yeah, you can see there's definitely enough snipers here to shut down these bulls pretty quickly. Takes about 3 shots to bring down a bull completely. And yeah, that's no trouble for these snipers at all. I think it was like 3 of them that went down, 2 or 3 of them. Definitely a small price to pay here. More of these seaplane gunships have come out, but there are fighters aplenty to deal with them. So that is quite unfortunate. Yeah, we need to see fighter coordination here, otherwise these gunships are never going to be able to get their true value. They are really powerful, for what it's worth. They can put out a tremendous amount of power. But yeah, we can't just be throwing gunships at fighters. Begging for some aerial support here. Someone air. You're air. I'm not sure what's... that's a little confusing. I'm not sure why that person is saying someone air. We do have another nuke coming out here. Is this targeted? Yeah, it's targeted right at the front line here. That wipes away that entire army. That standing army is reduced to rubble, and we have almost connected the seas. Only a few more nukes, and we're gonna have it. Nuke is launched here for the blue team. Targeting somewhere without an anti-nuke. Not sure precisely where. Huh? We blind nuked this island, but little did they know that there was absolutely nothing over there. Well, that's a very expensive way to scout. It works though, I suppose. This beachhead has been exposed for essentially this entire game. I would absolutely love to see a switch to the amphibious unit complex. I think that's definitely a better course of action here than going for more seaplanes. Definitely need to see the economy scaled up as well. We need to get that T2 Navy lab up. I was going to say vehicle lab for a second there. The T2 Navy lab needs to be built up, and we need to improve the economy here. Now I want to speed this game up a little bit, just so we get through this in a timely fashion. Sending bombers into fighter screens, fighter and anti-air screens, that's not going to work, unfortunately. Wish it would, but unfortunately it does not. Maybe I don't wish I would, because then someone would do it against me. That's how I felt in the early days when I was making those tutorial videos. Especially that Nuke Rush video. A lot of people commented about, yeah, what happens if people start using this against you? And I, you know, sort of half-jokingly said, well, I guess I better get better. And unironically, I think I couldn't have been more right. I have been nuke rushed quite a few times, and I've also, you know, seen some of the strategies that I talk about being used. So on one hand, it's like I get to be proud that I feel like I'm helping people learn how to play this game better, but also it means that, like, oh crap, I'm giving away the trade secrets. Now I'm the target of a lot of the I guess you would say the strategies that I've outlined now. It's pretty interesting to see. Either way, I'm happy about it. If I have to lose true skill rating to make the bar community more interesting, more happy of a community, then so be it. It's a small price to pay. My ego is not so grand that I'd hold any kind of progress like that. Anyway, enough rambling here. Frontline engagement completely shut down by a whole bunch of these hounds and some bulls and a tachyon tower. Plenty of defense to stop that push that was building up for dark green there. And so a lot of these tanks managed to break through and cause some trouble. Now there is a huge Marauder hit squad here. They absolutely destroy these destroyers. That was unintended, but that was pretty funny. The Marauders step into the pond and they are going to head straight for pink space. More or less. They're actually headed for red space, it would appear. Still quite nice. This is finally the harassment that we're looking to see here. There are troops mounting over on this side of the map, expecting some sort of a push here. They do see it, so we are ready for this, but those Marauders are pretty tough, and they're going to breach that line very easily. Breaking into the back line of red here. Doing a whole lot of damage. Oh, we do have a nuclear bomber out, though, and these Marauders are quite clustered. Nuclear bombers eventually shot down. Not sure if it was blown out of the air by an explosion from one of those nuclear reactors, or if it was shot down by the anti-air from the Marauder, but either way it does go down, as well as the Marauders eventually. Pretty sizable hit here for the red player, but definitely not out of the game yet. We can see a vehicle lab, or rather a bot lab being rebuilt here. We could definitely resurrect a whole lot of this stuff. Yeah, we even have the consoles in order to build construction turrets and all that sort of stuff, so we are definitely not out of the game quite yet. Meanwhile, another Marauder squad is heading out. More nukes in the middle of the map, trying to build a pond. I'm gonna wipe the map here, it's getting a little bit cluttered. Cataphracts versus the Thor. Cataphracts are nice, I really love those, but they don't stand up against the Thor. Not by a long shot. The Thor is absolutely a heavy tank for a reason. More Marauders pushing forward, but this time that team is ready. The nuclear bomber was in place, and it wipes out a whole lot of them before they even managed to make beachhead. And I think those Marauders are going to have to move a whole lot further if they want to get any kind of effect. Now we are starting up a epoch. We're actually finishing up an epoch here. 90% of the way done. And it looks like we're just content to keep growing a T1 economy. I mean, it's inefficient as all hell, but you have the entire sea to build your economy, so why the hell not? Meanwhile, this blue player here is completely unconcerned about any sort of push. We have mostly just a lot of air defense here, a lot of Archangels. Yeah, I'm pretty worried about what this epoch is going to be able to do if it moves over there. Looks like it's not interested, though. It's going to head to the front lines here and try and help out the orange and red and tan players on the front lines. Marauders, Sheldon, Resbots, whatever they can muster. We do have an epoch here for Daros as well. Blue player. Interesting. Somehow we EMP'd over here. I'm not even sure how that's possible. Do we have an EMP missile launcher? We do indeed. Huh. Very nice. I absolutely love those things. Yeah, this capital ship is going to be quite a pain. Oh, we have tons of anti-air here too. Nuclear bombers come in, but they are going to be shot down real quick. Indeed, each of them gets to drop one bomb, doing a little less than 30% damage to this epoch total. Yeah, that is quite unfortunate. I think these missile launchers, they are both out of missiles already. Unfortunate to see, and this army is moving forward. This is a dangerous looking army. It is stopped by this massive amount of hounds, though. How much metal and hounds is that, you reckon? 17,400 metal worth of hounds. Absolutely insane. Going to be able to put out an absurd amount of firepower. Just absolutely ridiculous amount of firepower. Razorbacks pushing along the side here, managing to sneak through. And they do find this base, delicious as it is, and start firing with their rapid-fire laser cannons, trying to burn down anything that they can. The Razorbacks breach the front lines. Very tanky, those units, so they definitely can pack a punch, and they can take one too. Jumping on top of this Karganeth, getting some nice surround bonus here. Looks like they're really occupied with completely tearing down the red player, who's just been harassed to death Really unfortunate to see. The orange player goes down as well as the Razorbacks finish off the remainder of the base. But we do have a single construction worker here, a single one to hold the front lines. Brave soul as he is. Yeah, orange definitely going to be needing to step back. Probably receive a... the construction worker just went down there. We just saw it on the map. Probably going to have to take a step back there and make sure that they can rebuild from the ashes. Red decides to tap out of the match. Impressively, orange is still in the match. Either has walked away from the computer or is hoping to get a construction worker from a teammate. Tons of economy here that should definitely be handed back over if we're just going to leave the game. Indeed we are, so I'd love to see that taken back by yellow there. Push, he has no base, get anti. That's Beeve. Beeve and Bouted. All the Americans in the chat are probably laughing, and I don't know if Beavis and Butthead is a popular cartoon anywhere else in the world. But I feel like that's a really American-centric cartoon. Anti-airships shooting down a bunch of torpedo bombers here. The single Thor to stand against them in the dark, to find them and in the darkness bind them. For what it's worth, doing a pretty good job. Lots of supporting fire from 2 epochs at this point, so that is quite nice. But the green army is growing. A nuke is launched over here. I suppose this economy was scouted at some point. The commander tanks the nuke at full face, but most of that economy is completely wiped out. Suddenly this player is back down to the Stone Age, probably wishing that they had built up a T2 economy. Not that that would have survived the nuke, but it might have been a little bit harder to spot. I have to say, this northern sea is looking quite uncontested. I mean, there's nothing over here on this beach to defend. We have anti-air defenses, but what would stop 20 tanks from rolling up this beachhead and completely plowing through this side of the map? Like, nothing, right? Now that I mention it, though, I actually don't see West doing much at all. Oh, I see. Wes was the player down here in the Southern Sea and must have taken this base over here. So a point of note for you folks, if you are ever in this position where you end up with a base that's across the map, just hit shift and select it all, and then just give it to the next closest player. So in this case I'd give it to yellow maybe, or maybe Corvin, the backline player here. Give them something to manage. Just give it all to one player over there. If your team is reluctant to take something, like a player that's left, just take the initiative, take it, and then give it to the closest player. Just force them to have it. It almost sounds rude, but it's not. You have to do it. Otherwise, you know, if it doesn't happen, it's going to be a huge pain. Look at these capital ships moving in here. This rain of fire on these juggernauts as they're pushing forward. A lot of question marks there. Very confused. It's just some anti-air defense. It's not that confusing. Torpedo bombers trying their best to blow apart these anti-air ships. Of course, it's a terrible matchup for them, but I guess we're not concerned with being efficient. We're just concerned with more DACA. It's like a juggernaut went down there. Wow, these juggernauts are nice and clumped up here. One D-gun blows 2 of them away. Oh, and this was a friendly juggernaut, so we do get all of the juggernauts there destroyed with a single D-gun. An excellent example of why you absolutely never want to clump up those units. Keep them as spread out as you humanly can. Or robotically can, either way. Bunch of recluses brought to the front lines. That's kind of an interesting decision. I guess it's nice for if you need to... Oh. And away they go. Now the puddle is completed. We actually have the connector here. Let's get a shot of that. That's actually a pretty good detail right there. Oh, we're into free cam mode, so we can take a look around here. I did that accidentally, but why not take advantage of it? See the ships firing away their plasma projectiles at these Karganeth. The Juggernaut marching along. Let's get down close into the action here. That epic Juggernaut marching forward. Falls flat on its face. No animation for those. They just fall over. And we'll go back into the overhead mode. Get a nice little view of all this here. That's what I was trying to do. Anyway. Titans are counter pushing here. Pushing into the weaker lanes, so that's quite nice. Weaker is relative here. There's still plenty of T3 units to try and burn down these Titans. Razorbacks, Karganeth, some Hounds for fire support. Quite like to see it. These Titans are usually pretty slow, so the Hounds actually have a decent time against them. you know, in big enough numbers. More stuff generally wins against less stuff, as is the ancient scripts. Anti-nuke's pretty thoroughly covering every part of this battlefield at this point, which is basically to be expected. Are we ever going to go for an amphibious lab? That is the question that burns in my heart. I would love to see one from any player here, but I don't think that's the move that we're going for. Unfortunate to see. Until the day that the meta shifts into what I think is the perfect Supreme Straits game, I will continue to say that I think an amphibious lab is probably the way that you win this game. You can just do so much damage with it on so many different fronts. It's so dynamic and really can just completely change the outcome of a battle. I think it's absolutely necessary for playing the water part of this map here. Even if you're not, maybe you just want to pump out a few amphibious tanks and send them through the water. It's always something to keep in mind as well. Maybe I should make a video on amphibious units. Let me know down below how you feel about that. I'd be happy to build a amphibious units tutorial on just how to use them, when is the right time to whip them out, and what each one does. Let me know your thoughts down below. Leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe. We are very quickly narrowing in on 1,000 subscribers, which is a huge milestone. I plan to make a post where I explain exactly why, in case anybody is curious, once we actually reach it. But just for everyone's sake here, tremendous milestone for me. I mean, personally, I never even dreamed of that, right? But yeah, it's really huge. Thank you all of you lovely folk, especially you who have been submitting replays recently. This is in fact one of them, and we've been casting a whole lot of these replays. I really enjoy casting your guys' replays because it lets me engage with you guys a little bit more intimately, right? I get to actually see how you guys are playing, see what you're up to, see how the metas are shifting, get to see the funny games that you play, get to see the serious ones. Big kudos. I really feel like it's a much better way for this community to interact. So I absolutely love to commentate all of these games. I will say that you monsters play so much Supreme Straits it blows me away. You guys are lucky that I like this map, because otherwise I would die inside every time I saw one of these Supreme Straits gameplays. But fortunately, I really love to watch this game, and especially this map here. We do finally see some capital ships working on this base over here. Yeah, they can absolutely shoot into this base, and they do indeed. They finally start targeting this down. I don't know if they even knew what was over here, or just started firing in this direction. Oh, are we firing these all one by one? Oh, that's not great. Yeah, if you double left-click, you can select every type of the unit that you double left-clicked on the screen. So yeah, we're firing these one by one. That's unfortunate. That's not really going to work. Unless you find a spot with no anti-nuke. Like the puddle. The puddle grows. Cutting the puddle in half. That's really funny. Wow. I suppose enough air beats enough anti-air. It really is just a matter of numbers, and this goes to show you. I mean, the anti-air boats are the dedicated hard counter to this aerial harassment, and the yellow player just does not care. We're just going to storm through it. We're just going to put up with that tickling, rapping sound on the outside of our ship holes, on the outside of our gunships. It's fine. A little bit of shrapnel never killed anybody, but a whole hell of a lot of fighters certainly did. Look at these heroes, these war heroes. Several kills to their name each. Absolute legends. The middle of this map is quickly stagnating here. Karganath trying their absolute hardest to stop this push. For what it's worth, they're probably a pretty good option here, because these, they have 2x speed? Anyway, pretty good option here to stop these units, because the Karganath, they fire that really rapid fire, long-range rocketry, which tends not to overkill by very much, which is kind of what you're looking for in those anti-swarm weapons. Juggernaut has made beachhead. Now, I was thinking about this the other day. You saw that Titan, or that Juggernaut rather, took damage from walking through that wall, and I was wondering if there's a way that you could take advantage of that by building walls in front of a Juggernaut and then having it take damage from walking through the walls. Wonder if there's any possibility that could work. Anyway, this Juggernaut nowhere near damaged. Solus Bar is just clueless, and yeah, unfortunately the Juggernaut does get the economy before the D-gun goes down. Unfortunate to see a little bit more proactive about that, and we could have seen the Juggernaut stopped completely before the economy was trashed. But unfortunately for this light blue player here, Solus Bar, their entire base has been destroyed. Something ravaged his base here. I didn't quite catch what it was. But whatever it was, completely wiped this player off the face of the map here. Looks like it was sus cheese because I don't see any buildings for them aside from a single T3 construction zone and a bunch of this economy out here in the water. Interestingly enough, we've gone for long-range plasma cannons to deal with the harassment from these ships out here. That's quite interesting. We have the space to build a navy out here. I don't know why we're not taking that advantage. Maybe we're just worried that as soon as we dip our toes into the water, we're going to be shut down. But I really think there's an opportunity to harass from there. I just saw the queue line for these marauders go up, and that is excellent. We're going to start finally routing some marauders over this gaping open weakness over here. And I think that's quite an excellent option. I'd love to see one of these capital ships move through the center here. I don't know if that water's even deep enough for them to do that, but I'd love to see somebody try. Another Juggernaut has made beachhead over here, and it is pushing forward every once in a while. Poor unfortunate plane gets gets very thoroughly blasted out of the sky by this Juggernaut here. We see some of the red players caving under the pressure. Pings all around, trying to warn of the encroaching enemy positions here. Yeah, one rocket spider and a couple of Centurion are definitely not going to be enough to stop a Juggernaut. I don't even know if that much Marauder fire is going to be enough to stop a Juggernaut. Those Juggernaut blasts are extremely powerful, and they can definitely take down Marauders pretty easily. Marauders, of course, can get that surround bonus, though, so they can do quite a lot of extra damage. You can see, especially on the Juggernaut, just how big that surround bonus angle is. Of course, it's the red side. That's the weakened side here. Centurion's trying their best as well. Yeah, but this whole base is looking like it's being ravaged to splinters here. You could just self-destruct the Juggernaut at this point, and it would be just as effective. And indeed, the advanced fusion does light up everything in this immediate vicinity. This Juggernaut is also granting vision for these capital ships to start firing away from super long distance and devastating this green base. So we are trading blows left and right here. We saw Sush Cheese was knocked out, but now the green player is knocked out. This player over here was knocked out. Looks like a Juggernaut explosion went down right there. Big old crater. That or a nuke, one or the other. Something just exploded back here, and I'm not sure exactly what it was. Maybe a bombing run? Could it have been a bombing run? No. Ah, stealth. Interesting. Oh no, it must have been the Marauders. Yeah, you can see the Marauders pushed up. Can't believe I forgot about that. Yeah, the Marauder push takes out one of the back line here. We pinged and pinged. Same happened to me. Yeah, it is unfortunate. Sometimes that team coordination does not work out quite so well. The Juggernaut that could here pushing forward. I mean, these are basically just grunts and fiends, so it's not like these are really too much of a threat to this Juggernaut. Not any huge capacity anyways. And the Juggernaut keeps moving forward. Without an immediate response here, we are going to be in quite a lot of trouble. Neither of these players have a commander left. It looks like, yeah, both of them probably ate their commander for the medal early on into the game, and so in fact there is no commander left now that we are into the late game. And this Juggernaut is going to keep on walking. It's being pushed around a little bit by these grunts that are trying to body block it, basically. That is pretty funny. The Juggernaut does a little bit of damage every time it steps, but of course those shotgun blasts also do quite a lot of work. It gets into this backline here, can definitely start firing on the economy. It can also just self-destruct and probably take out this entire base. We're not focusing the right thing though. Looks like a rocket finally shot down the economy, which is quite nice. Eventually we're going to target some of these economy structures here. Shot their base. Yeah, I think he means shoot, but I get the message. Yeah, we're targeting the wrong structures here. Eventually we get the advanced fusion reactor. Juggernaut brought over to finish off the enemy Juggernaut. Self-nuke was launched even. That's pretty funny. Looks like we're calling it quits here. Things are pretty even, though. I really don't think any one team is winning this. We've still got tremendous armies for the blue team, and we still got huge production facilities for the red team. I guess I like the Navy for quite a bit better for the blue team, but they decide to tap in, losing the moral victory before they lose the actual one. That is quite unfortunate to see, but an excellent job by a red team, sticking it out, sticking through the pain and the harassment and all the undoings of the world, making sure that they stay in the fight to the bitter end. Very, very nicely done. Kona getting quite a lot of rewards here. Very nice. Let's take a look at these graphs. Wow, Corvin doing an excellent job of continuing the expansion in the back line. I think they were blown up eventually. That's why they started a fly line here. Such Cheese doing a good job of rebuilding after taking a hit. Looks like that's what this was here. Growth stopped, and then we kind of slowly started building up again. Very nicely done. You can see the red team just very slowly crept past the blue team. The blue team did a good job of keeping up, but eventually the numbers just won out in the end. Very nicely done. I hope you had a phenomenal time watching. I hope you have a phenomenal rest of your day. And, yep, that's all. See you later.